two particular individuals come in. They're in this jail cell, and an amazing record folds here in verses 1 through 8. And it says something like this, and I'm in chapter 40. Sometime after this, the cupbearer of the king of Egypt and his baker committed an offense against the Lord, the king of Egypt. Now, I want you to understand, both of them are placed in prison because their lives are intricately connected. The cupbearer was basically like the national security advisor for the Pharaoh. And the Pharaoh wasn't a person's name. The Pharaoh was the title of the ruling leader in that particular country. And so Egypt at this time pretty much ruled the world. And so, if you will, this is a pretty significantly powerful individual. And this cupbearer is constantly in his ear. Now, whatever the cupbearer tells him to put inside of his body, the king puts it inside of his body. So when there was some great wine, some fine wine that came in, maybe it was poisonous. And so it was the cupbearer's job to taste that wine first. And so, as you might imagine, there were many cupbearers. And so they would taste the wine first. And if the cupbearer died, well, at least long live the Pharaoh. And they'd find a new cupbearer. And so in this particular lesson, we see that this person had a close affinity to the king, the cupbearer. And we also see that the chief chef, this baker, was the head chef in that particular kitchen. And so they were intricately connected. And so the butler would prepare or oversee a kitchen that would prepare a meal. Then the security check would go through the cupbearer, and then it would enter the stomach of the Pharaoh. And so there's something intricately connected here. And I want you to know that life, I'm going to talk about for a moment conditions of life. I'm going to talk about cognitions of life. I'm going to talk about choices, and I'm going to talk very briefly about the consequences of our choices. But I want you to know that there are some conditions in life, it's not about you, it's about somebody else. There are some things in life you cannot change. That's just a fact. There are some things you cannot change about life. There are some things about you cannot change. What are some examples of conditions that we grew up in? Well, if you were born in America, you can't change the fact that you were born in America. If you were born in another place outside of America, you can't change that fact, and you had no power of that. How many people had an opportunity to choose their father, whether he's good or whether he's bad? Okay, nobody had. Okay, how many people had an opportunity to choose their mother? Okay, nobody. How many people, when they were born, had an opportunity to choose who was in the Senate, who was in the House of Representatives, and who was the President of the United States? Nobody. All right. How many people, when they were born, had the opportunity to make sure that we had the right people on the Supreme Court? Okay, nobody had the opportunity to do that. How many people had the opportunity, but when they were born, to make sure that they were born in a neighborhood where there was going to be no crime? How many people, when they were born, had the opportunity to grow up in an environment where they had the best schools money could buy? So how many people, when they were in the second grade, third grade, fifth grade, eighth grade, ninth grade, and they were subject to the education, whether it was good or whether it was bad, that the teachers presented, how many people had the power to effectuate change as a third grader, fourth grader, fifth grader? Nobody. And so those things are called uncontrollable conditions of life. And so when we see in this lesson, we see the cupbearer. Somebody messed up. I don't know who it was, but somebody messed up. I don't know if they had a problem in the cake that day, but somebody messed up. I don't know if the biscuits failed, they had too many jalapenos in it, but somebody messed up. The chef didn't catch it. And the chief security advisor didn't check it. Nobody caught it. But their lives are intricately connected. And so there are some conditions we cannot change. I don't know if this one said I didn't do it, and this one said I didn't do it. I don't know if they pointed their fingers at each other, but life had them connected. And I want you to understand that what happens in life is bigger than you and me. It's bigger than you and me. It's a machine, life. It is an organic, living, major machine. And you can't control it. I can't control it. It's moving. It is constantly bringing forces our way. And so what happens is, and I'm skipping forward, we have conditions, we skip past cognitions, we skip past choices, and then we have consequences. And so for some of us, we say it's their fault. See, it's everybody else's fault, whatever's going on in my life. Whatever level of success I have, whatever level of failure I have, especially when failure is involved, guess who we blame? We blame these uncontrollable conditions up here. This is why. And in this particular lesson, what I love about it, it shows us that although there are some uncontrollable conditions of life, you have a God who's sovereign. You have a God who sits high, who looks low. You have a God who's far away, but he can reach right here to where you are. You have a God who's intricately involved in your life. You have a God that has the power to stop any condition that comes forth.